I'm going to explain to everybody how to use Excel in the way that we would use it in IB. So, here we are with a set of data. This is honey imports into Germany between 1955 and 1973. Ah, that was a good year, 1973. There. So let's say we have a set of data. It's easily put in, so any numbers you want to put in, for example, I'll just type one in to a cell. So this is called a cell. And you can type them in like that. But let's get this sort of looking the way we want it to look. So the first thing we want to do is we want to sort of highlight all of it. And over here you can put a thick border around the entire table, which I've done. Then probably what would be a good idea is to put the cursor there and put another border, thick bottom border, and then we have a nice looking table. One of the things that we want to do, I think, is we want to definitely center everything. So always center your data for the most part in your box, in your table. That looks pretty good. So let's say you have your table done. Here's the title of the table. I will copy that. So when you have your lab, you always are going to probably do your lab in Microsoft Word or something equivalent to that. So we'll go like this. We'll call it the table. So let's say we'll call it Table 1 in your lab. Then what we're going to do is we're going to paste the title in as we saw before, or type it in. Then I'm going to go back to the Excel file, copy the table, and I'm going to copy this table, and then I'm going to go back into my Word document, which is really going to be my lab. Then I'm going to paste it in, and voila, you have this gorgeous table. And you should be really proud of that. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to continue looking at this, and I want to make a graph. And basically what I want to do, again, this is lesson 1, so I'm just going to show you how to make a simple line graph that will just buzz you away. So what you want to do is you want to go to Insert, and you're going to insert a line graph. So we'll just make a simple one. We like to keep it simple. We don't need any fancy three-dimensional kinds of graphs. Just keep it simple. After you do that, you'll see here there's a section that says Chart Tools, and almost everything you do for your graph are located in the Chart Tools. So let's go to select our data, and here's where you have to be very, very focused, because a lot of little bees make mistakes here. So what we want to do is we want to go to Legend Series. This is usually, or always almost, the data that would go on the y-axis. So in other words, it's the dependent variable. Since I'm only graphing one line, I don't need to put in a series name. But the series values are the y values. So just highlight all the y values, which are the amount of honey imports in tons. Press OK, and you have your graph started. Well, what am I going to do? I don't have really the proper data on the x-axis, so I'm going to go over here where it says Horizontal Category X Labels, Edit, then highlight all the years way back when. Okay, so now you go OK, and you have your graph. So let's just make it a little larger so we can work on it with a little more easily. See, a lot of students forget to take this away. You don't need this, so just clear that, and it makes it look even. Just delete it, and there you have a graph. But of course, as you can see, the graph really isn't ready yet because we need to put axes labels on it. Now for the other two lessons, I'm not going to put axes labels on it because of time, but let's learn it now. So anytime you want to go to a layout, you go to Layout, and that gives you all your important stuff. You got your axis, your grid lines, everything you need, but we're concentrating on the labels. So what we want to do is we want to go to, let's say, the horizontal, and then the horizontal is the axis title, which is now down here, and I'm going to type it in, and we're going to call it year. Oh, beautiful. Now what we want to do is go back to axis titles because we need to do the vertical axis. Usually I just go to rotated title, and we type in tons, and that would be very simple. Now anything on this graph you don't like, you can change. So for example, let's say I don't want these lines here. I just go here, I right click on it, I go Format Axis, and then I can clear the lines. Whoops, I think I made a mistake. I didn't press the right one. Oh, I've got to be careful. So what you can do is just delete those lines. Now I don't like the fact that this is such a small font, so what I can do is I can actually just go over that with a cursor, pressing down the left key, and then I can just go out here and change it to any, let's say I want to make it a size, let's say 18 font. I can change the size of this, I can change the size of that. Anything I want to change, I can change by just pointing and clicking. But here's another thing I want to change. I don't like the fact that there's all this space here, so let's change it so that we format our axis, and we want to change the various values on the axis. So this is, for example, the different units on the axis and so on. So if you see here on the y-axis, we can change the lower number. Instead of being 10,000, let's change it to 20,000 and just see what happens. And you can see how it could change the axes. You can do anything you want to this axis. You can change the values. You can redo that. Now let's just change that for 1 second. We'll fix the values here at 20,000. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that will become our lowest value. And again, you can do whatever you want on the side. You can do whatever you want on the bottom. That's basically the graph. Now, one thing I want to tell you, all you IBers, is you do not want to put in a chart title here. And here's why. Let's copy this. We'll go back to our Word file. Well, what we want to do is we want to put our graph in our laboratory, in our lab write-up. So let's just call this Figure 1 now. What is a figure? A figure is a graph, a photograph, or a diagram, and those go underneath the graph, photograph, or diagram. So we'll just call this imports, just to do it quickly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste the graph right above the title there. So that's exactly how we'd want it. Again, we'd have a table in here with the title on top, and the figure titles always go below the figure that you're looking at. So that's lesson 1.